The year is 1914, and we are introduced to a young Englishman. He makes the decision to travel to a remote island in the South Atlantic. He wants to travel to this island and work as a weather observer for a year. While traveling to the island, this man must board a ship that will take him there. He meets the ship's captain. The man and the captain arrived on the island after a long journey. Another weather observer appears to have been present on the island. The captain and the young Englishman attempt to locate the weather observer, but they are unsuccessful. They soon realize that the man who was the island's weather observer has vanished, and there are no signs of him anywhere. The island is also very creepy and strange. The captain and the Englishman soon discover that the entire island is inhabited by only one person. The only human on the island is the lighthouse keeper. In addition, the lighthouse does not appear to be normal. It appears to have been transformed into a massive fort. The caretaker appears to be defending the lighthouse. We're still not sure why. We learn that the lighthouse keeper's name is Gruner. He is an elderly giant, but he is still powerful. Gruner greets the captain and the Englishman, but he is cold and condescending toward them. The captain and his crew of young Englishmen inquire with Gruner about the previous weather observer. Gruner explains that the man is no longer alive. He died as a result of a disease. It appears that this man attempted to swim in the ocean and drown. There isn't anyone. As a result, there is no conclusive evidence of the cause of death. The captain believes Gruner is lying and wishes to return to the ship. He tells the young man to return to the boat and leave as well. This island is too dangerous for anyone to visit. The young man declines the captain's offer and decides to stay on the creepy island. The Englishman has arrived on the island and intends to stay for a year. He makes the decision to live in a cabin and work as a weather reporter. He, like the previous meteorologist on the island, decides to explore the island in order to learn more about it and its surroundings. He goes for a walk around the island and soon discovers strange areas of the land. The young man discovers a strange rock circle on the beach. They appear unusual, almost as if they were handcrafted. Later that day, the man returns to his cabin to rest, but he also learns. He soon discovers the terrible truth. In his cabin, the man is attacked by sea monsters. He is now terrified and must seek refuge in the basement. One of the monsters looks at the man, which frightens him greatly. He is extremely terrified. However, the sea monsters quickly flee. The young Englishman visits the lighthouse the next day. He attempts to converse with Gruner. He begs to be allowed into the lighthouse. Gruner refuses to let him into the lighthouse no matter what. It appears that Gruner was always aware of the monsters but chose not to warn anyone. After failing to gain entry to the lighthouse, the young man is forced to return to his cabin. He needs to find a way to defend himself if the sea monsters attack him again. Soon, he begins to discover extremely useful items in the cabin. He comes across a rifle and some bullets. He has made the decision to defend himself. As a result, he tries to improve his cabin so that it is not destroyed by the monsters. That night, the sea monsters reappear and begin attacking the cabin. The young man is forced to fire his gun at the monsters. He manages to defend himself in his cabin by shooting some of the monsters. More monsters arrive, and the young man realizes he can no longer defend himself. There are simply too many monsters attacking him at the same time. He has an epiphany just before being killed by the monsters. He starts a massive fire, and it actually works. The monsters are scared of the fire and continue to flee. There's another issue now. The young man survived, but he set fire to his entire cabin. He now has no shelter and must hide from the monsters if they return. Gruner is then seen leaving the lighthouse by the young man. He had to wait an entire day before deciding to follow Gruner while following Gruner the next morning. The young man then meets another person. He comes across a female sea creature. Gruner then intends to shoot the creature, but the young man prevents him from doing so. The young man notices that this female creature is calmer and less violent. Gruner then decides to name the young man. He refers to him as a friend. Also, Gruner explains that the female creature will never leave friend because she now believes he is her master. The sea creature then begins to lick a friend's wounded hand. Soon after, all of the wounds on his hand healed completely. The sea creatures appear to have some kind of power. Gruner and his friends become friendlier. A plan is devised by a friend. He will share his ammunition and supplies with Gruner if he is allowed to stay in the lighthouse. While Gruner is not a people person, he does allow a friend to stay in his lighthouse. Gruner has an idea. He believes that the other sea creatures frequently attack in order to reclaim the female sea creature. Perhaps they want her to return to the sea. More monsters arrive that night and attack the lighthouse. Friend attempts to fight but collapses from fear. Gruner is now enraged at his friend. He does not want someone who is ineffective on his team following the battle. Gruner instructs a friend to handle the water and other supplies because he is not a good warrior. Gruner intends to brutally train a friend. He decides to abandon him on the balcony one night. He hands a gun to a friend while looking out the balcony, preventing the friend from going inside for the entire night. A friend battles the sea monsters. Gruner goes outside in the morning to see what has happened. He discovers a friend who has managed to survive. He is now completely covered in sea monster blood. Days pass and friend and Gruner grow closer. Every night, the creatures attack and they must fight them. They are brutal, but they fight the creatures with everything they have. When the monsters attack, they must be cautious every morning. Gruner attacks and abuses the female sea creature when the creatures are not attacking. Friend, on the other hand, is compassionate toward the sea creature. He even assigns a name to her. He begins to refer to her interests. Friends begin to recall the original goal. Why did he want to come to this island and stay? Friend desired to be alone and at peace. He just wanted to be alone for the rest of his days and enjoy the insignificant aspects of life. More creatures arrive than usual one night. Their assault is brutal, and there are a lot of them. Friend and Gruner are having a lot of trouble in the battle, and they are wasting a lot of ammunition. They are soon almost killed in battle. Friend and Gruner realize the attack will only worsen, and they are already injured. Gruner is bitten in the foot, forcing them to flee from the monsters. The creatures will not stop attacking them until dawn. The sea monsters then return to the ocean, and Chris decides to heal Gruner and his foot. During the day, he attempts to signal the ship so that they can be saved by a friend's sponsorship in the distance. Gruner is enraged by this and attacks Atticus, who then appears and protects his friend from Gruner. Gruner is now furious with both of them. Gruner does not appear to want to be rescued from this island. Friends begin walking on the beach and exploring the area. He discovers whale bones and begins to create art with them. After that, Atticus leads Friend to an abandoned boat on the island. A friend informs Gruner about this boat, which may be their only way out. Gruner, on the other hand, believes the boat is too small and weak to sail in open waters. Gruner explains that this ship belongs to a man from Portugal. The monsters killed this man. He also had dynamite on the ship, but the water destroyed it, rendering it useless. Friend suggests that they investigate the wrecked ship in the hopes of finding a solution to their problems. Gruner is completely uninterested. Chris and his friends also spend more time together and grow closer. Gruner is envious of them and enraged. Gruner hopes that his friend dies while exploring the ship so that he can have his own race. Friend dons an old diving suit and goes down to see the shipwreck and look for dynamite in it. France's smaller sea monsters appear to be friendly and playful while underwater. Friend discovers that the dynamite is still usable and that the water has not destroyed it. Friend and Gruner devise a plan to drive the sea creatures away. They'll use the dynamite to start a massive fire in the lighthouse, scaring away all the monsters and crossing, in order to invite the other sea creatures to the lighthouse. The creatures begin to attack, but the dynamite does not detonate. Gruner has been unable to set it off. The friend then rushes up to the lighthouse and attempts to reconnect the detonator. All of the explosive eyes are activated, and many creatures are killed in the explosion. Gruner also detonates a second bomb, killing even more sea creatures. Gruner begins killing the creatures who are still injured on the beach the next morning. Friend realizes that the creatures are more than mindless monsters. Gruner is enraged, and he reveals that he met her years ago when he saved her. Gruner believes she owes him her life. The creatures do not attack or enter that night. It disappeared. A friend also discovers a photograph of Gruner with his wife. Friend also discovers more sea creatures and realizes that many of them desire peace. He actually meets a child sea creature, gives it a gift, and is later returned. She is also more self-assured. Other sea creatures follow behind. Her friend tries to convince Gruner that the sea creatures prefer peace to war. Gruner is enraged by this and begins to murder them. Gruner is stopped by a friend. In addition, He reveals that Gruner is the island's meteorologist. Friend tries to persuade Gruner to change his ways. Gruner loses his mind and goes outside, where he is killed by sea monsters. Following that friend stays on the island as the lighthouse keeper. When the captain returns to bring back a friend, he declines the invitation to return to England. He reveals that this is his home and that he has found peace here. The conclusion: thank you for taking the time to watch. To receive new movie recaps, please like, subscribe, and click the bell icon.